So I kind of want to do something like something special for the people, you know?
Since you missed last week, you want to give them back a little present?
Yeah, so I was thinking I could do something. I'm going to do a little rap recap of the crap that happened this week. So
Was that it? That was good.
No, that was good, but I'm going to do a rap recap of the crap that happened this week.
Just remember to keep it slow because you're on the other end of the thing. So slow down your beat a little bit, kick it go.
It won't be fast and it probably won't be good. I just thought of it like 10 minutes ago and I just started saying some things.
Don't give yourself an out.
All right. So this is what we got. You're ruining it.
I'll stop.
Gordon evaluated. Now he's reinstated. Kelvin to the boys. My boy Ty God is elated. Halloween got me scaring. Ripping and the tearing. Browns will be Browns that even fuck with McCarron. Are the Finns doing coke? This team's a fucking joke. Fly, Eagles, fly. Now they got their boy Ajayi. Niners will still blow. What's Garoppolo? Player got a boner, gets to win a Super Bowl. Zeke now won't play. It's like fucking Groundhog's Day. The scramble to the waiver wire. Full teams in dismay. Done.
Oh! Let's get loaded!
Let's go.
Should have been playing this during it. Welcome to the Loaded Box Podcast,
where we never finish first because we finish last, and that's how you say it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and this is the Loaded Box Podcast, and I am Ben Morgan, and that is DJ Khaled minus 250 pounds, a.k.a. DJ Primo. Spitting fire! How long did that take you to come up with?
It took me about 15 to 20 minutes to come up with that stuff.
I think we could just call it a podcast. You covered everything.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty. I thought the stuff I put down on paper was pretty good. I just didn't know how it was going to come off.
I'm slightly offended as a Dolphins fan, but it was all truth.
But it was great, though, because, I do fucking coke. And I was going to say the Eagles flying high to tie in with the coke, but I thought doing Fly Eagles Fly was still kind of fun. And then I didn't know if anybody could tie back, but I said the Niners still blow.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
what did you rhyme with Ajayi?
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Oh, God.
Now they got their boy Ajayi.
That was wild. I hope that you can do that every episode now. We just won't never have this so much content, though. This is going to be nuts.
Yeah, this is a wild week. I was like, fuck, I need to make something happen for this week of crazy shit that happened.
What a week. I texted you yesterday before the trade deadline. It was like, dude, can we just go back to normal NFL trade deadline when it's boring?
What's happening?
That was ridiculous. Updating Twitter every 20 seconds. Phones dying.
Best sport in the world just got better. Like, the NBA is always known for its draft shit. I mean, their trade deadline and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The NFL is kind of getting into it a little more this year. Not just now, but also earlier for the season, too. So.
Yeah, and then the day after the trade deadline, you get Josh Gordon reinstated after not being on a football field since anyone can even remember. That's just crazy. Well, this is our Week 9 preview podcast. We're going to do our normal daily fantasy advice, our against the spread picks, fantasy football listener questions that I forgot to put on the agenda, so I'm going to have to wing it. But let's start right away with what the hell went down yesterday with the trade deadline. So the biggest one, probably, well, quarterback-wise, you could say Garoppolo was the biggest, but let's jump right into the Jay Ajayi, because that kind of kicked off yesterday morning. Pretty wild. So Ajayi to the Eagles for a 4th rounder. You are a known Jay Ajayi hater. I want to let you start, and then I'm going to pick up all the garbage that you create here.
Well, there's things I could say, and I can't even imagine how shitty it must be to be a fucking Dolphins fan. Aaron Rodgers got hurt, and I still can't imagine how shitty it can be to be a Dolphins fan right now. Clearly they never liked Jay Ajayi.
No.
It's like they drew a line in the sand and he never worked. He sucks. He's going to go suck with the Eagles.
Let me jump in real quick to build off what you're saying here. Because a report came out today that he approached the coaching staff and front office that he wanted a contract extension this offseason, and the coaching staff basically said no, assuming that he wasn't part of their long-term plans, and that pissed him off. Him and Gase already don't get along, and that created even more of a rift between them.
I mean, I think it's going to continue to be an issue. If you're an issue one place with multiple different coaches, I think you're going to be an issue at the next place you go. So I don't think the Eagles are going to get what they think they're going to get out of this guy. Plus, I clearly don't think he's a good running back. But this whole organization has no idea what the fuck they're doing. You had Jay Ajayi get traded, rumors of Jarvis Landry that got shut down. But, I mean, that's twice now that the Jarvis Landry rumors have come out. They signed Jay Cutler thinking that they're going to be a playoff team. I said, and any other person with a brain could have seen that he was fucking garbage and that should have been dumb. Waste of money. Now it's just tank until you get either Saquon Barkley or fucking what's his face that doesn't want to go to the Browns now.
Yeah, no kidding. Sam Darnold said basically that he's going to pay attention as to how the NFL season goes because he's not real thrilled about maybe going to Cleveland, which could be likely after starting 0-8 or whatever they are.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say, so you said you're thinking that the Eagles might be thinking they're getting a better player than what they got, kind of in summary.
Yes, a better player, they think they're getting a better player than what they got, and a guy who could just be a locker room issue. You've seen this before, where they think they're getting something, and he just doesn't work out because he's got attitude problems. I mean, I don't know if I can think of Rashad McCants in the NBA level as a guy I think out. He went from place to place, talented, but just people didn't like him because of his attitude problem. I think Ajayi is probably a similar guy to that. Even Percy Harvin had that.
Percy Harvin would be a great comparison if you want to go down that road. So what I'm thinking with the Eagles is if he can be productive for 2 years there, and if he can be that piece right now that makes that offense go from really good to even better, for a 4th-round draft pick, the unknown on that, they got a steal. That's a great deal for Philly. Even if he's not the best, they legit have like 4 or 5 running backs that can complement him. So giving them one more piece for a 4th-rounder is a steal. So what upsets me as a Dolphins fan isn't the fact that they traded him. It's the fact that it's just a 4th-round pick. I mean, if you want to look at it value-wise, yeah, they used a 5th-rounder on him, so they got more than what they spent. A 4th-round pick, the Dolphins' history of 4th-round picks and even 3rd-round picks isn't good. I mean, that guy's not a guarantee to be on your team in 2 to 3 years.
But what does that tell you? Does that tell you maybe you don't understand how bad the locker room, they were so excited to get that guy the fuck out of there.
They were
taking anything. So 4th-round pick, I mean, I think the Eagles should be more worried than with the Dolphins. I mean, they have him there. He's been there for 3 years now?
Yeah.
He's clearly an issue. I mean, they're going to know inside the locker room way better than us. You're a Dolphins fan. I'm a Packers fan. I can never say that I know what's going on inside the locker room.
Right.
They have him with Josh Sitton. He just wasn't a guy that they wanted on the team, so they got rid of him. Right,
and that's what Gase is kind of known for. He came in last year. He cut, at week 4 or 5, whatever it was, cut 2/5 of the starting offensive line and just said, hey, if you're not doing it my way, you're out of here. And that
didn't work out so well.
Well, actually, it did, because those guys were turnstiles on the offensive line.
And 2 years ago?
Yeah, and that's when Ajayi actually started playing well. But, there's definitely more to it than what we know. I mean, there's no getting over that, I don't think. We got to keep booking here because we're going to take forever otherwise.
All fucking day.
What do you think fantasy impact? You kind of talked a little bit about Eagles, but talk a little bit about Jay Ajayi's fantasy role with the Eagles and then what you think's going to happen in Miami between Kenyon Drake and Damian Williams.
Oh, I have so much to say. It's so hard. So I'll start with LeGarrette Blount. If you have him on your team, he's pretty much useless at this point, in my opinion, because Ajayi is going to be he's a goal line back too.
It's a similar role, yeah.
Exactly, and I think they probably just think he's over for the Eagles here. Then you've got your 3rd down backs already on the team, so that pretty much leaves LeGarrette Blount in the dust. Who knows if he'll even be on the team going further. Jay Ajayi, I mean, you probably drafted him really high, so you have to play him.
Right,
He's probably going to be a little bit better. He's probably going to be a little bit better just because the offense is a lot better. I still don't like him, period. As far as Kenyon Drake and what's his name?
Well, let me go back real quick, just because
Yeah.
I feel like you have to have a natural bump in Ajayi, just because
Yeah.
he hasn't scored a single touchdown this year with the Dolphins. So how much worse can it get?
I don't even pay attention to that fucking guy.
And B, you're going from a team that statistically has the worst offense in the NFL to a team that pretty much has the best offense. So even if there's other playmakers around to take carries away from him and to take touches away from him, you're still more likely to produce on a team that's scoring 30 than you are on a team that's scoring 12. So that's kind of my quick take on it. I'll let you go on to the Dolphin situation.
And I said he was. I said he was a jump because he's playing for the Eagles. So that's
right.
Natural. You got to be a little happier if you're a Giant owner.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
I can't. Is it something Williams?
Damian Williams.
Damian Williams. People are like, you told me some people spent like $80 of FAAB on him.
In a league we had, someone went 80. Yep. That's
a big dumbass joke. I didn't even consider picking up either one of them because they're going to be worse than their Ajayi. Like, the offensive line is what the offensive line is. Why would you think that these guys are going to come out and just be like, yeah, I got these guys, I've got these running backs that I can throw in, they're going to be awesome. It's going to be even worse, probably. Like, there's going to be less production. Like, at least Ajayi could break those tackles that were getting there right away. Those guys are going to be fumbling every goddamn time they get the ball handed to them.
I'm thinking that if you're going to get one, it's probably a little bit late just because your waiver wire is done. But I'm just saying in terms of.
Not.
Oh, that's right. We can have one yet on Thursday.
Yeah.
However, if you're going to get one, Damian Williams is. He's going to get some snaps because he was already getting snaps when Ajayi was there anyways. But if you're going to get one, Drake would be the guy. And I think the only upside that you get from that is if you're in like a PPR system, because he'll catch more out of the backfield than Ajayi ever would. So there's a little bit more of a window there. But yeah, if you pick him up, and like you were talking about, I was in a league where a guy spent $80 of his free agent auction bid money on Kenyon Drake. And if you look at it, look at Ajayi's stats. He's not even, I think he's like an RB3 right now, based on like stats. So if you think Drake's going to come in and, even if he matches that production, that's not worth that much. So what, you got him now, great. Are you actually going to be able to start him? Like, is that a guy you want to be starting? That's where I'd be hesitant with it. I'd be a little bit more open to the idea of like a keeper, a dynasty, thinking, the Dolphins used a high round draft pick on him. They traded up to get him. Maybe they see something in the future that they like with him. But in regards to like a redraft league, you're not gonna be comfortable starting him if you did get him.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks. Let's pop on to the next one. We're not used to having to talk about all these people on new teams. Garoppolo to the 49ers, still starting Beathard right now. I'll spare you though. What does this do for the team? Because I don't think it does anything for the team this year. Is there any reason that you'd even add him in fantasy?
No, if they're already like tempering expectations on him, it kind of makes sense to me. Like, let's not throw him out here and just let him throw him out to the wolves. Let's get him some time in the system and throw him out there next year when we can. Look what happened to Jared Goff.
Right.
He was just thrown under the fire, shit on. Give me the rest of the year. You're not going to win any games. You're not going anywhere. So no, I don't. If it's a keeper type of league, maybe. But otherwise, I don't touch him.
How about the Patriots though? Just like stockpiling these draft picks that they've gotten just from taking like mid to late round quarterbacks behind Brady. And at the time before they signed Brian Hoyer, who the 49ers released, they had Tom Brady on their roster in regards to quarterbacks. They didn't have another quarterback on the roster. So, gosh, I don't know. I just think that the brains behind that operation is what keeps the wheels turning, and it's just going to continue to turn in the right direction because they're stockpiling these draft picks on backup quarterbacks that come in and play a couple of games, even a couple of series in some set. Like Jacoby Brissett played what, like 2 games? And they're turning nice round draft picks out of him. It's like Ryan Mallett, Brissett, now Garoppolo. It just never ends with these guys, and they're just stockpiling for Matt Castle. I mean, they're just playing teams at this point, and yeah, Garoppolo might be more of a proven thing than one of these rookies that the 49ers might have ended up drafting, but yeah, that's the big unknown, though.
If I'm saying maybe, he's not really proven, so.
No, I do like him and Shanahan. I think they could have something there, but yeah, that's going to be only time will tell. Let's go on to the next one. Calvin Benjamin to the Bills. We did a pre-pod Twitter poll about which team he'll end up with more fantasy points with this season between the Bills and the Panthers. I voted Bills just because of the fact that he didn't have that many points with the Panthers. He had a couple of touchdowns, but I think that Tyrod can extend plays because the knack on Benjamin has been, and I think will continue to be.
Knack?
Yeah, the knack. Knack. His inability to separate on his routes. And if you have a guy like Tyrod who can extend plays and let Benjamin kind of create on his own and give him more of a jump ball situation, downfield, more broken place type stuff.
Yeah, he can jog his fat ass into an open area.
Exactly. I mean, I think that kind of plays a little bit more to his strength. So, do I think he's going to dominate with Buffalo? Absolutely not. They're a run-first team. But it is a nice addition. I don't know if it's not going to move the line. It might make him a little bit more competitive. But in terms of fantasy, if I owned Benjamin, I'd be a little bit more happy now than what I was in a Carolina offense that was really up and down.
Yeah, I think he'll probably get more points with the Bills as well. I think he'll have more red zone opportunities here. They're going to kind of focus on getting the ball. That's why they brought him in. Tyrod will give him some chances. He'll put the ball out there for him to get. And he, like you said, his ability to scramble, that's the big thing right there. His ability to move around. And Benjamin's not going to beat you one-on-one, but if he can kind of find and sneak away in open space, cornerback kind of fall asleep on guys, especially ones that are a little slower. They kind of focus on other plays. He can maybe sneak around the back door and find some open opportunities with the way that Tyrod plays. So I think he'll have much more opportunities to score touchdowns and be able to catch the ball in extended plays from Tyrod there in Buffalo. I'm just worried. It's winter. He's already fat in Carolina. I can't imagine what's going to happen in Buffalo. It's winter. It's cold, hibernating. He's going to be eating and drinking a lot. He might turn into an offensive lineman by the time the year's over.
I like that take, man. He could be a big guy at that point. I'm trying to think of a good role for him that the Bills might be missing. Maybe if Tolbert gets hurt, he could be the new Tolbert.
Well, Charles Clay could be the new tight end.
Ah, there you go. That'd be a sneaky mismatch. I mean, he probably doesn't block for shit, but he might be able to just be an obvious pass-catching tight end. That might be something for him. Let's go on to the funniest part of Wednesday. That was Wednesday, right? No, Tuesday.
Yesterday, Tuesday.
Yeah, the Browns-Bengals failed A.J. McCarron deal, so they're on the horn. It's a few minutes prior to the deadline. Hey, Browns, what do you give us for A.J. McCarron? Oh, we'll give you a second, blah, blah, blah. Bengals are like, shit, yeah, we're going to get these draft picks for A.J. McCarron. And they get agreed upon. The Browns are so pumped up that they gave up one of their million draft picks for a guy like A.J. McCarron, sort of a questionable deal. They get so excited that they spend their time congratulating each other, forget to call the NFL office, end up calling it too late. NFL says, next time, maybe you shouldn't be idiots and get your trades in on time. So the trade doesn't go down. So I want to ask you, how does that conversation go between the Bengals and A.J. McCarron now?
Was it a call? Was it a text message? Was it an email? You think with nowadays, there could be more efficient ways to get shit done like that so they wouldn't have to, miss this deadline?
You'd think
they should have just... No, I don't know. It should have
even tweet at the NFL. Just be like, hey, we're cool with the trade that they just talked to you about.
Right? Something good.
Anything would have been better than nothing.
Yeah. I don't know how you talk to him. He said it's nice to be wanted, so that's true. They were getting some good picks out of him. He was going to go and be a starter. I don't think they really say anything to him. It's kind of like in high school when you break up with a girl, you walk by in the hallway, you just kind of ignore. You just kind of walk by him and ignore him. Don't say anything. You just ignore and the fact that anything ever happened between the two of you.
That makes for a hostile situation, though, in an NFL team, because, let's just say now that Andy Dalton gets hurt and they turn to McCarron, and McCarron's like, oh, now I'm hot hose all on me. Like, what's he gonna do?
Well, I mean, he can't play bad though because he wants his. So either way, it's going to work out for them because he can't take because then nobody's going to want him. He's not going to get a contract anywhere.
Or he takes the snap and just takes a knee. Remember when
Again,
you guys tried to
trade me? It's not
trade
going to
me?
work out very well.
At the end of the day, though, I think this might have worked out okay for the Browns. Like, they saved one of their higher draft picks.
Yeah.
Like, draft another DeShone Kaiser and take a chance on a rookie. What the hell?
Take a chance, take a chance, take a chance.
I think we could talk forever about what the hell went down on Tuesday, but let's move on to our typical pre-podcast content here. Do you want to knock through your tongue twister here?
Yeah, again, Matthew Berry. Fuck Matthew Berry, love-hate tracker. I've talked about how much I hate his loves because he sucks. Ultimate suck this week. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he realized he was doing so fucking bad that he just started doing less people, thinking he would do better if he just picked one. But he missed all three. Cam Newton, 12.5 points. Jay Ajayi, 4.1 points. Marius Thomas, 6.6 points. All misses. All garbage. Fucking don't listen to Matthew Berry. If you want to win, listen to us. 22 of 65. Fucking garbage.
Yeah, because actually when I just looked at this when we were updating the agenda. I did like some quick hitter wide receivers last week, and Demaryius Thomas was my only bad one. I gave some damn good advice there. Let's move on to our pick 6 against the spread picks. Fucking ice cold. I'm not even going to talk about the records right now. Let's just dive into it.
All right.
I'll go real quick.
Okay.
My first one here is the Kansas City Chiefs in a pick'em over the Dallas Cowboys. They're in Dallas, but Dallas is just 1-2 at home this year. They're finally going to get that experience of playing without Zeke because of the roller coaster suspension ride that he's been on. That was the strength of the Cowboys, their running game, and the weakness of the Chiefs was their run defense. They're in the bottom third of the league against the run, but without Zeke, it's going to be Dak time, and that's good timing for the Kansas City defense, obviously. The thing is, Kansas City's defense was struggling, looked really good against Denver. Now, I'm not know if that really means too much. We just saw Denver decide to bench Trevor Siemian for Brock Osweiler. So if you're benching someone for Brock Osweiler, you have issues. You've got issues that might be deeper than the Dolphins' issues. So I don't know how much stock I can put into that, but I know the Chiefs on the road are pretty good. 3-1 on the road. They just scored 29 against a really good Broncos defense. I'd assume that they would hit 30 against Dallas, so I do kind of like the overplay here as well. But I'm thinking that Kareem Hunt kind of gets back on track here. Dallas is 15th against the run, but I'm predicting that Kareem Hunt gets over his 100 yards for the first time in I think like 4 or 5 weeks. And he's been TD-less. TD-less, do you like that word? Mm-hmm. For 5 straight games. That's going to come to an end. I'm thinking Kareem Hunt has a big day. I like both the over and I like Kansas City here, but I'm going to go, my official pick is the Chiefs and a pick 'em at Dallas.
That's a tough one because, honestly, do we actually know if Zeke's going to play?
No, they're finally saying this is a thing now.
Okay, I don't believe it. And Kansas City's got like one of the worst pass defenses in the league, so Dak's going to be slinging it around. I think they match up well, so they can throw it. They can kind of control the ball because they're such a good offensive line that they can run it, and then they can kind of throw at will, like I said, because Kansas City's just not been a good pass defense this year. So I expect Dez and whoever else out there, Terrence or Butler or Beasley, to have a good game this week. Maybe all of them. And, I mean, there's a reason this is a pick-up. Dallas is starting to get hot a little bit. They're starting to get better in the pass rush. I like the matchup for Dallas. I was looking at this game, and I considered taking Dallas, but I didn't, so I'm going to go opposite of you if I had to do that one.
I like that. You like the over a little bit then, maybe? The way you were talking, it kind of seemed like you were expecting some points.
I do like the over a lot in this game, but I also loved an over last week, and there was like 10 points.
Yeah, I took an over once where the team didn't score. That makes it tough. However, in that Dolphins-Ravens game last week, the Dolphins didn't score, and it went over, so that's always fun. My second one is the L.A. Rams at the New York Giants. So kind of lost this week in the trade deadline talk. Janoris Jenkins got suspended indefinitely, violation of some team rules. The Giants with Jenkins were 27th versus the pass, and now without their best cornerback, I really see this as a bounce-back week for Goff in that offense. I mean, the Giants already aren't a good team. 1 win, 0-3 at home. And you're talking about the Rams, who've kind of been a surprise team, 5-2. And since their loss to Seattle, they're outscoring opponents 60-17. We talked about the Giants kind of struggling against the pass, Jenkins being out. They're actually only 23rd against the run, too. They allow over 120 yards per game. Freaking Todd Gurley could be in for a nice day there as well.
Todd Gurley's going to eat.
I think he's going to do really well. That might be a sneaky play we talk about in a little bit here. And the Giants in general, their offense is a mess without Odell Beckham. It looks completely different. They look terrible. They had the bye week. I don't think they really benefit too much from it. I'm taking the Rams here by more than a touchdown.
Yeah, I like that pick. Especially with the loss of Jarvis Jenkins, Gurley should eat. Robert Woods will probably have a lot of yards. I see him starting him in the league. So, that should be a pretty easy game for the Rams.
I sure damn hope so. I need a little victory here to get my record back up.
Me too.
Right. My third and final one here, my pick 6. The over in the Texans-Colts, over 50. For Houston, I talked about this in that podcast that you were gone. They've had 5 straight overs. They're scoring like a freaking... Their over-unders have been like college games recently. They've been like 50, 60, up to 70 points. 5 straight overs for Houston. They just put up 38 against the top 10 Seattle defense, and now they're playing Indy, who is 31st against the pass. Houston has allowed over 42 of the last 3 weeks, so they're not a juggernaut at all either on defense. I was just talking about that game where I bet the over and a team didn't score. That was Indy. They didn't score 2 weeks ago against the Jags, but then they bounced back with 23 against Cincy. They have a solid defense. But for the season, 6 of Indy's 8 games have gone over, and for the Texans, 5 of their 7 have gone over. And here's your weekly Deshaun Watson update. He's now projected for nearly 4,000 passing yards, 43 passing TDs, 4 rushing TDs. And just for a side note here,
interceptions.
Not that many. He's actually the highest, most expensive FanDuel quarterback at $9,600. So what are your thoughts on Watson? He's kind of he's doing good.
Everybody's so cocky about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and he did it against Seattle.
Eat my shorts. Yeah, 3 interceptions, 1 for 6.
Okay, the last interception doesn't count.
He's got good weapons. I can't deny the fact that he has great weapons in DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller out there running wild, but I mean, gonna get him in trouble.
Do you agree with so Dan from Beer Fueled Fantasy joined me on Sunday. Do you agree with us that you should sell on Will Fuller right now? The dude has like 13 catches and 7 touchdowns. Just something stupid.
No, not necessarily, because DeAndre Hopkins is going to continue to be the center of attention. And, I mean, fucking Watson likes to just throw it.
Yeah.
He likes to just throw the ball. That's why I'm scared. I still think he's going to get himself in a shit ton of trouble the way he's winging the fucking ball around the field. And he's goddamn Brett Favre out here.
Those receivers must love that, especially after the year that Hopkins...
That's all that DeAndre Hopkins needed.
Hopkins went from last year having Osweiler and Savage, who couldn't even throw the ball near his knees, and now he has Deshaun Watson, who's just throwing lasers.
Just throw it in an area. I don't get other quarterbacks. At least that's the one thing Deshaun Watson is definitely doing right. It's just give him a chance.
Give him a chance, exactly.
Put the ball out there and give DeAndre Hopkins a chance. Like he made some catches that were not good throws at all by Deshaun Watson, especially early in that game. That Hopkins just made twice. Sherman looked just silly.
Yeah. No, that's what he does. And we talked about this, man. We're like, Hopkins is the forgotten guy when you talk about elite receivers. That guy is so good. He just needed an opportunity. You know how great Julio Jones would be if he got opportunities like Deshaun Watson would give him?
If you just got anybody. Jesus Christ.
Let's do your pick 6 here.
All right. I'm going. Mine don't take very long because you know how I roll. I'm doing really shitty. Went 1-2 last week. Not looking good. I'm taking Cincinnati plus 5.5. Half at Jacksonville.
Statistics say you're going to bounce back soon.
Yeah, last night I have the club, but tonight I'll bounce back. Any game that Jacksonville is favored by more than 3 points, I feel like I should probably bet against it. They want to play slow. They want to let the defense win their game. They want to run the ball. Cincinnati's kind of the same way, except they have to throw because their offensive line is garbage. But they want their defense to kind of keep them in the game and play a little bit slower. I expect this to be fairly low scoring and very close, and I think almost any team that plays against Jacksonville this year, as long as they don't throw a ton of pick sixes, should be able to keep it close and have a chance, but Jacksonville just trust their defense to win games. Still, I think they're confident in with any lead, a 1-point lead at the end of that because their defense is that good. So I love Cincy plus 5.5.
Yeah, this is a definite no action for me. I just am baffled by the Jaguars. I mean, they have such a good defense, and I don't know what to expect ever on offense. It sounds like Fournette's going to be back, so that's obviously going to give them a bump.
2 weeks off.
Yeah, the thing that I would like with the Bengals here is if they can successfully run the ball, which they're not that good at, I think this spread is covered easy. I don't think they have any chance whatsoever. Or they have no chance of losing by 6 points or more if they can run the ball. It's if they get down, if Dalton has to pass, you know they're going to be all over A.J. Green. They don't really have that many playmakers outside of him on the outside. I mean, with Tyler Eifert being out, that defense is kind of suffocating.
Yeah.
Saxonville.
I don't think Jacksonville beats anybody easy besides Baltimore.
Besides Baltimore across the pond, yeah. So
next, I'm going all dogs here. I'm going Denver plus 9 at Philadelphia. I know you yelled at me. You're betting Brock Osweiler. Defense can present some problems for Philadelphia, and as long as they can prevent turning the ball over, which is a big ask coming out of Brock Osweiler, I think it can be similar to how the Steelers matched up pretty well with the Chiefs. Obviously, the Denver's offense isn't as good. But I think that they can keep that offense at bay, Carson Wentz at bay. I think he might struggle a little bit this game. You got a lot of good guys. I mean, defense, they're good against the pass. They're good against the run. They're a great defense. I'm going to favor the defense in this game and think that they can at least keep it close as long as they don't turn the ball over, which is asking a lot.
The craziness of the NFL says that you're on the right side of this because you have the Eagles looking like the hottest team in the NFL,
yep.
And you've got the Broncos looking like the shittiest team in the NFL.
That's another reason.
But my mind won't let me bet on a team that's quarterbacked by Brock Osweiler. So that's the only reason I'm not going to go on that, though.
I feel like I'm doing things I usually wouldn't do, so I feel really good about it. And then lastly, I'm going Tampa Bay, who New Orleans has been playing awesome. Things have to come back normal.
Wait, what's the spread on this one? You cut out. It was Tampa Bay.
+7. Tampa
Okay.
Bay +7. I think things have to come back to normal for the Bucs. This is the perfect game. Divisional rivalry should be fairly high scoring. Hopefully, Jameis' shoulder isn't as a big an impact as it looked. Because 2 weeks ago, he looked amazing. Last week, he looked like shit. But they were playing. Did they play Buffalo this last week?
They played Carolina.
Or Carolina, sorry. Which is a solid defense. And New Orleans has just way too big of a history of just let down games to make me think that they will keep going this way. I feel like we overrate this New Orleans team, and I did it pre-season every year. They look like a team that's going to win because their offense is just so good all the time. But then even offensively, they just have a bunch of letdown. Even against Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers played that game. They would have lost by 40 points. Brees throwing multiple interceptions in that game. They would have had no chance in that game. But luckily, they were playing Brett Hunt. Anyways, I gotta imagine things come back to more even, and I actually think Tampa Bay can pull off this win. Prediction.
I liked what you said there because it's a divisional game. New Orleans has a history of doing this, having a letdown game, especially against a divisional team.
Oh.
Yeah.
And, sorry, I just wanted to this could be, we've been saying this for weeks, but it is indoors. You're on a fast track. That favors Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, don't tease me with that shit anymore, man.
I just did.
The thing that I struggle with right now with Tampa in this game is their lack of offensive identity. They get Doug Martin back, and they're still not that successful on the ground.
So weird.
They have Winston, they have Jackson, they have Brait, they have Howard, they have Evans, they have all these guys, but yet the points don't come. Well, they scored last week against Carolina. They even scored. They get a field goal. They're just not.
Yeah,
and that's at home.
That's at home
against a division opponent, not a must win, but a damn important game. So they're lacking consistency. They lack an identity. That's what keeps me away from this. I think you're on the right side if you're betting on it, but it's not going to be in my.
We are in must-win season right now because we are halfway through the year. It is must-win season, so you're okay to say it's not a must-win. It is a must-win. You're okay from now on to say this is a must-win.
It's official?
We're in must-win season, baby. I'm going to grab a beer. You keep talking.
You heard it here. We are in must-win season. I kind of feel like the way the NFL is, I mean, we're talking about baseball, 162 games. Basketball, 100 and... No, not 100. They have 82. Whatever, the Bulls went like 72 and 10. So 82, 162. Hockey plays almost year-round, I think it feels like. The NFL, you have 16 games, so you could argue that almost every game is kind of a must-win. So I can get behind that. Thanks for having my back there. Question, we're going to go on to our daily fantasy sports advice, tidbits, start sits.
Tits.
Before I do that, World Series Game 7 is going on tonight. I think the Astros were winning last time I checked. Taco Bell, steal a taco. Did you get your taco today?
No, I did not. I have to work and I'm busy.
So I went today. I got my taco. I went right at 2 o'clock. I've been looking forward to it ever since frickin' Maven stole that base. I'm like, you know what? Putting it on my calendar. So they give you the hard shell, like, Dorito taco, which was good. But after having it, I'm like, who in their right mind would ever choose a hard shell taco over a soft shell taco?
I would. I love hard. That's hilarious. Because I 100% of the time, ask my wife, 100% of the time I'll take a hard shell over a soft shell.
So here's my beef with hard shell tacos.
Oh, I like that. No pun.
No pun. Okay, and it has to do with the beef. Because you bite into it, if you're biting into a soft shell taco, you get a fair amount of every single thing that's inside of it with every bite because it wraps up. If you're doing a hard shell taco, you're either biting it from the bottom and you're getting the meat, or you're biting from the top and all you're getting is lettuce and the freaking shell. And I don't like lettuce that much. It's such
You don't bite from the bottom or the top. What kind of way are you eating a hard shell taco?
What? How do you
You
eat
bite from the front.
What do you mean the front?
The front of the goddamn taco. You turn your head sideways and bite.
Yeah, but when you get to the middle, you kind of have to decide. Are you going to go low or are you going to go high?
Well, see, this is what you do. You bite from the front, and then if the high is a little more even, so as you bite from the front, you bite that top off so you can keep it mixed.
So you take 2 bites and 1 chew?
Yeah, so then then I'll always go low, and then I'll bite high again right away to keep getting that crunch. I'm more professional. I love fucking hard shell tacos.
Taco eating etiquette. This is good.
Because the goddamn hard shell is so much more like, I like the crunch, I like the flavor. I don't really like just a tortilla in general. I like the soft tortillas. I like the hard shell tortillas.
See, after having the one that I had today, my theory was that was good, but what would have been better is if I would have had that taco and then had a soft shell taco under it and just squished the hell out of the hard shell taco to make it.
Oh my God, you might be onto something here.
And then wrap it into the soft shell taco, and it would have been perfect.
You're really good at squishing things.
I am. I'm so good at it. All right, just wanted to get that out because my belief of having soft shell tacos over hard shell was confirmed today. But I don't know the etiquette that you shared with me, so maybe I'll try that. Yeah. Let's go on to some daily fantasy.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. My stack of the week, my debut of that last week, it didn't go all that well. Phillip Rivers only had the 1 touchdown. Hunter Henry, for some damn reason, got ignored. It upset me greatly.
Did they even score?
Yeah. Melvin Gordon scored. And
yeah, they won 21-0. The other team didn't score.
Yeah. This week's stack of the week, 100% guaranteed return. The Kansas City Chiefs, Alex Smith, 7,900, and you're going to hate me for this.
Go!
Tyreek Hill, 7,700.
1 point out because he had an interception last week.
Don't worry about it. We talked about how high scoring this game is going to be. Mm-hmm. And Alex Smith in FanDuel is averaging over 21 fantasy points per game. You got the Cowboys struggling against the pass, 15th in fantasy points allowed. Alex Smith had his lowest output in FanDuel last week. Still 13 points against Denver, and they're ranked 7th against the pass. So you got Alex Smith, who's a legit MVP candidate. You have a statement game here on the road against the Cowboys. It's going to be seen by pretty much everyone in America. And then you have Tyreek Hill. We don't like him in standard leagues, but I want to take a chance this week. He's your classic boom-bust play. Looked at it.
That's what he is. That is what he is.
Yeah. He's got an every other thing going. Do you know what I mean by an every other thing?
The only problem is, I wish we could look at his. I know he can. I wish I would have looked at his targets compared to the rest of the team because I have a feeling he might be one of the
low targeted guys.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by his every other thing. This is his week so far in FanDuel.
I have an idea what you mean, obviously.
23, then 7. 18, then 6. 15, 5. 22, then 4. So you know what's next? Probably about 27.
I can't. Like, this is the reason I didn't want to touch him because he has he has more big output weeks than I thought, and I think he's going to have a few more downs than ups as we go on. Look, that's just not a playoff guy you can trust.
But that's why I don't mind him in DFS this week.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going with him. I mean, I don't own him in any standard leagues, but and then so that's my stack of the week. My bargain stack, I'm going to call this one. We talked about this game too. Jared Goff 7,600 and Sammy, where the hell have you been lately? Watkins, only $6,000 at the Giants. So looking back, Goff has put up some pretty modest fantasy games when he's been playing good defense. Now you've got the Giants giving up the 28th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. I really like Goff in this situation. I'm not saying he's going to have a repeat of that 49ers game, but I still see him going over 20 here. Watkins has struggled with the Rams outside of that Niners game. He had 2 touchdowns that game. That's his entire total for the season. Talked about that loss of Janoris Jenkins. I think Watkins is the primary beneficiary from that. You talked about Woods. I could see him being all right. Cooper Kupp will be all right. This could be your breakout week for Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, I'm not going to jump on that train. I'm still a big Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp type of guy.
If you're doing one of my stacks, which one would you take?
Neither. Probably Smith and Tyreek Hill because of the Dallas secondary. But
fair enough.
How can you? I don't know. It's hard to jump on Watkins.
He's just so cheap.
That offense.
$6,000 though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're cheap and you're not putting up anything. And
that's something I would say.
I mean, you're just not putting out any production. So he's $6,000, and he sucks right now. So he's cheap because he's just not good. You get what you pay for. You know that quote. Yeah,
but in this situation, I mean, against the struggling defense, without their top corner, like if there was going to be a bounce back week, that's why it's a bargain one. I mean, you're taking a chance, but if you can go so expensive elsewhere, if you're taking Goff and Watkins at $6,000, you're going to have some damn good players elsewhere.
It's risky. I still like their secondary, even though you drop some stats on me. I still like it.
All right. Well, I have a bounce back of the week quarterback here in DFS, and he is Drew Brees against those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had no passing touchdowns for the first time all season last week against the Bears. Tampa Bay, 23rd against the pass. We talked about their corners kind of struggling last week. Tampa Bay's 10th against the run, so I kind of think they're going to be able to take away Ingram a little bit more. I think the Saints lean more on Brees. So if you're going more expensive at quarterback, if you don't like one of my stacks there, I would recommend Drew Brees at 8,300.
There you go.
What's your quarterback situation look like?
You ready?
I'm ready.
I can go?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going with I like how you go, and then I kind of do my own thing. So I'm going to present you with a little bit of a scenario, and we'll talk about it. I got Derek Carr and Jameis both had a couple of letdown games this last week. You got Carr going for $7,800 at Miami, and Jameis going for $7,700 at New Orleans. Both pretty solid matchups, especially in I think Miami's struggling secondary. Jameis against a high-scoring team, kind of got to throw the ball. Which one would you prefer without taking, in fact, like the weather?
So I think when you say Miami's secondary is struggling, I think they struggle one time a week, and it ends up being a big play. So you're kind of banking on that. I don't think their secondary is that bad. I'm actually going to have a bold prediction later, which will explain me a little bit more here. But if you're making me pick between those two, I'm actually going to take Winston just because I don't mind the Dolphins secondary, whereas I think the Saints, that has a potential for high scoring. If the Tampa Bay starts clicking, that could be kind of a back and forth thing. Like you said, it's going to come down to Winston, his ability to protect the ball, his ability to find Evans. But that game has some potential for some really boom fantasy weeks. So the more guys I can get in that game, I'll take, because if you look at it on the other side, I don't know if the Raiders-Dolphins really has that same boom factor. Like, You hate Chris Berman. I don't know why you have to say that.
I have to because it's so fun.
It's interesting. But yeah, I'm going to take Winston. I just see more fantasy points, more points in general. I mean, Dolphins games don't really have that much, and I don't see them getting blown out again. So I'll take Winston. What do you got?
Oh, Jesus Christ. You're an idiot because I don't see them getting blown out again. Comments. Don't see that from a Dolphins
I'll get to that. I have a bold prediction later.
Jameis, I'm going to take as well. His New Orleans, I think he has a bounce back week. I don't know what happened last week. They did play a really good defense. He usually steps up in these type of situations. I'm having one of those issues.
You've been every single sentence you've been like about to pass out.
Drinking beers, baby.
Holy shit!
Let's go.
You're getting old or something.
Jameis, 7,700. Let's go. Take him over Derek Carr.
Okay. Question for you. Let's move on to running backs. We've got Mark Ingram, 7,900 versus Tampa. Every game without AP, he's had at least 15 fantasy points. Every game without AP, he's had at least 24 touches and a touchdown. Not really thought of as a receiver either, but he's had over 4 receptions per game as well. You riding the wave with Ingram, or are you taking a week off?
Gotta keep riding it, man. That Tampa Bay defense right now. Although the one thing that scares me, you still got me over there?
Yep.
The one thing that scares me is Ingram did fumble this last week at the end of the game.
Yes.
And Sean Payton looked pissed. And I'm already under the impression that he already hates Ingram.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I have a little bit of hesitation, and I'm scared that Alvin Kamara can just get a shit ton of carries, a shit ton of touches, and a shit ton of playing time, is because of that one specific thing. I wouldn't say that with most teams, but with Peyton and Ingram and the way you looked at him with that fumble, that I don't think was a fumble, that scares me. That one thing, just look at Sean Payton's eyes, the way that they've already hated each other, Peyton's already hated Ingram, getting Adrian Peterson and drafting Alvin Kamara, worries me. But I think I'm still riding it and just hoping he's not an idiot and wants to win games and realizes they're in first place in their division. That's
funny. It's like you almost talk yourself out of it. But at the end, you're like, nah, I'm just going to go with it anyways. He'll overcome. Nice.
Got to be a smart football coach.
Yeah. My bargain running back, I have a feeling you're going to hate this one. My bargain running back is Christian McCaffrey, only $6,100 versus Atlanta. He is averaging over 8 targets per game, top 20 in the NFL.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
No, keep going. I'll say what I'm going to say afterwards.
Okay. So obviously no more Kelvin Benjamin. That might equal more targets even for him, more playing time. Atlanta's nothing really special on defense against the run or the pass. I think McCaffrey is a bit touchdown dependent. He's going to have limited rushing yards. We've already seen that the Panthers can't run the ball. So you're pretty much banking on him and his 8 targets and making something out of at least one of them. 3 out of his 8 games, he's had double-digit FanDuel points, though. So if he can keep getting double digits for $6,100 in a matchup here that I think he can exploit, I will take my chances with McCaffrey this week.
See, this pisses me off because I predicted this perfectly at the beginning of this year. He is not a running back. This guy is a slot wide receiver. He is the opposite of Ty Montgomery. Montgomery went from wide receiver to running back. McCaffrey is running back to slot wide receiver who plays out of the backfield and still catches balls. But that's what he is. He's a wide receiver.
Yeah, you can be like a faster Wes Welker.
They should change his position. He should not be allowed to be a running back anymore.
That makes sense. I mean, all of his production's coming through the air. I mean,
that's all of his production.
Which is kind of, and at the same point, what keeps me thinking that he might be able to be a decent running back at some point?
Sucks between the tackles, by the way, just like everybody predicted.
Right, but Jonathan Stewart's not lighting it up on the ground there either. So I think it's a little bit of like a play calling offensive line situation.
Speaking of that, Cameron Artis-Payne's starting to get a little action.
Yeah, I think they said they were going to try to limit McCaffrey a little bit here. They feel like they're overusing him, but now you're getting rid of another target in Benjamin.
For the next couple of years here.
Yeah, that's my bargain running back. What do you got for backs?
Backs. I was looking at the FanDuel, and I hate the running back situation this week.
Let's just say it's a tough week in general with this bye week.
The running backs are like the worst thing I've ever seen.
Nasty.
So it seems like the type of week you'd splurge on either Gurley or Hunt. I think you have to take one of those two. If you're putting a lineup One of those two needs to be in your lineup no matter what. So I'm thinking of a bargain RB that is a play with him. You just mentioned McCaffrey. I don't want to really pick in the spot. I don't know if you have somebody else. So I'm going to give one. I'm going to give one of mine. I'm going to take Alex Collins, $5,900 at Tennessee. He had over 15 points last week and expects to get much more play this weekend. Coach talk. Hopefully I don't get fooled by it again. But he didn't. He didn't fumble, or maybe I don't know. But the issue with him was that he fumbles, but he had a huge game this last week. They like him. They said they want to give him the ball more. And with the way Flacco, what's his name anymore? I don't even want to say it correctly. Joe Fleck. And I expect Alex Collins to touch the ball a ton to keep the ball out of Flacco's hands.
Well, and that was the thing, too. I mean, Collins did that against the Dolphins, who hadn't given up, I think, 60 yards to a running back all year.
Yeah.
I think a little bit of that was fluky, but oh my gosh, he legit, if you'd have put him in the Dolphins uniform, he looked like Ricky Williams. A little bit of the hair helps to play there, but man, he played well. I sort of take back some of the shit talk I had towards him in that offense. But yeah, that offense is going to go with Collins. I don't really like Flacco in their passing game all that much. I loved what I saw out of Collins, so I like that. Hey, you talked about Kareem Hunt and Todd Gurley.
Yep.
I think if you would use my Alex Smith, Tyreek Hill, you could probably afford both those guys, and that might be a way to go.
Nope. It's too many Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, I forgot there was 3 Chiefs there.
Potentially.
Well, I could do that because my other one was Goff and Watkins. So you're going to get 3.
That's a rookie thing for me to say if we think his team is going to be a high-scoring team. There's no too many of guys if they're going to all score. Use them all if you think they're all going to play well. So
yeah, FanDuel has that.
It was a rookie comment, but
well, you can only use so many guys on a team in FanDuel as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's a veteran play now. You have any more running backs?
Nope.
I got a couple quick mid-ranged wide receivers. I like Michael Thomas, 7,600 versus Tampa Bay, and I like Des Bryant, 7,700 versus Kansas City. I like Thomas because of the stuff we just already talked about. I think that game has the potential of being high scoring. Thomas has been, I don't want to say ignored. He just hasn't quite lived up to that hype. I mean, he was like a top 8 fantasy receiver last year as a rookie. I don't want to say that he's having a sophomore slump. He's still having a pretty good year, but I think this could be a nice bounce back week for him. Whereas Des Bryant, you talked about it. Chiefs secondary has struggled basically since Eric Berry's been out. This could be a big week with no Zeke. Dak's going to have a little bit more on his shoulders. Des Bryant at 7,700 is not a bad play. I mean, it's not super cheap. I call it a mid-range play. So those are my mid-range guys.
Did you say midget?
I did.
That's funny. Oh, carry you.
My bad. I apologize.
Brought that back up. All right. Let's move along. This is taking so long, dude. I got to go fix my washer.
All right, I have a bargain play receiver then if you don't like Des Bryant and that midget. T.Y. Hilton, $6,600 at Houston. Just like Tyreek Hill. Man, I am struggling with names today. He's a boom-bust play. So he's either getting less than 5 or he's getting more than 20. Houston, 22nd in fantasy points against the pass. We just saw Russell Wilson, Seattle, throw all over him. Russell Wilson threw 4 touchdowns, 36 FanDuel points. Not trying to say Jacoby Brissett is anywhere near the quarterback that Russell Wilson is, but I could see this being one of those weeks where T.Y. has a breakout game. He seems to sprinkle those in every single year. And if he legit gets like a 60-yard touchdown, he's worth your $6,600 that you're paying for him. Yeah. So I really like T.Y. Hilton. I have a hypothetical for you here. Expensive guys. We have DeAndre Hopkins, 9,100 versus Indy. Mike Evans, 8,500 at the Saints. And Julio, probably the lowest we've seen him, 7,900 at Carolina. Who are you taking of those expensive options?
I'm going to go this week. You did this to me last week too, didn't you?
Yep.
I'm going to go Mike Evans this week. Didn't have a great week last week. He's had a lot of good weeks outside of that. Jameis is going to throw him the ball. He got a high-scoring game. I'm going Mike Evans again. I think I took him the last time. I'm taking him again. When you're going to focus on a guy like that, when your quarterback's focusing on a guy like Mike Evans like that, this guy's a really goddamn good wide receiver. I'll continue to put him in there. I love Mike Evans. I love him.
I think I'm going to rank them at how they are in actual price range. I think I'd go Hopkins 1, but you're paying out the ass for him. You're paying $9,100 for him. So you're going to need a couple bargain guys.
On Evans.
Yeah, and you obviously could. You absolutely can. Julio at 7,900 kind of seems like a steal, but at the same point, struggling to find the end zone. God, Carolina's
Nobody
defense.
trusts Matt Ryan.
No, you just can't trust him right now. So I think I'm with you on that one. What do you got for receivers?
All right, with Kelvin Benjamin traded and Fun Cheese as $6,100, do you get him in your lineup immediately, like betting a spread before it changes? And I was thinking about this. Does a person's word change? Like, you know how like some guys can change throughout the week on FanDuel or their price? If they change during FanDuel and you've already submitted your lineup, does their price change in your lineup? I've never checked that.
Honestly, I didn't think that they changed during the week. Do they?
They do. I've seen it change before.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that goes. I can't answer that without recklessly speculating.
Well, I think you get Fun Cheese in there immediately at $6,100.
Yes and no. I mean, we saw Funchess play without Benjamin already, and it wasn't like it was super stellar. We have this league where we pick a receiver every week, and that was my theory. I'm like, oh, Benjamin's out. I'm going to use Funchess. He has a great matchup, plus no Benjamin. And I think he ended with like 67. What?
It's all Fun Cheese now, though. It's no worries.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Benjamin didn't play that game either. So, I don't think it's automatic by any means. I get your theory on it, but I don't think it's a slam dunk.
If you're trying to save money and you're going to get a number one wide receiver,
Sammy Watkins
guy like
is your
Fun
guy.
Cheese, I'm going to take that at $6,100.
I'll take Sammy Watkins at 6,000.
Okay, I'll beat you.
Do you have any more receivers?
Nope.
Tight end, real quick here. If you just want to take the best expensive guy, I would take Travis Kelce, $7,000 at Dallas instead of Zach Ertz, 7,600 versus Denver. Kelce has had double digits 5 out of 8, and he's been over 20 on 3 of those. So for how much we kind of hated him last year, just felt like he got ignored. He's not being ignored anymore. I like that. My bargain guy is Vernon Davis.
Oh, you fucker.
You like him too? Yeah, $5,400 at Seattle. I like him even more if Jordan Reed doesn't play. Earl Thomas, he's not going to play?
I'm pretty sure he's not.
Well, Earl Thomas is either out or limited at best for Seattle.
And even with him, they're terrible against tight ends.
Yeah. I mean, and Vernon Davis, even when Reed's been on the field, he's had 65-plus receiving yards for the last 5 games. So if you're taking away Reed, if you're taking against a team that struggles against tight ends, I really like Vernon Davis, and you're going to be able to afford some people if you're spending basically what you'd pay for a defense on your tight end here. And I think he has great potential. I mean, it wouldn't be shocking to see 80, 90 yards and a touchdown here.
My notes, my only note for tight ends is use Vernon Davis 5,400 versus Seattle. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
That's it. That's all I got.
Nice. Let's see what we got here. We're approaching an hour, so let's just jump right to the bold prediction since I'm sorry, I didn't write down the listener's question, so I apologize this week. I know one of them was Dolphins
running
running
back.
Twitter. Yeah, we'll hit them up on Twitter. I know one of them was Dolphins related with their running back situation.
Yeah,
and
we
I know
don't want to talk about those douchebags.
Yeah, we already hit on those douchebags. You're such a dickhead.
Douchebags.
Bold predictions, NFL Week 9. I talked about how last year the Dolphins cut 2 offensive linemen and then they turned it on. They are going to react on Sunday Night Football just like they did last year, and
they're on Sunday Night Football?
So they played last week on Thursday, they play this week on Sunday night, and the next week's on Monday night. America, it's time to witness what I witness every week.
I'm so glad Walking Dead's on now. It's like, no.
Oh, that's true. So let me get back here because this bears repeating. They will dominate the Oakland Raiders. But keep in mind, the Dolphins' version of a dominate is a win by more than 8 points.
Derek Carr is going to light them up for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Crabtree and Carr are just going to, Cooper and Crabtree and Carr are going to shit all over him. It's going to be great.
My fantasy team will support that.
I'm taking Deshaun Jackson, 150 yards, I wrote 150, 120 yards and a touchdown this week.
Oh, backing off. It's not quite as bold as it was.
No. Probably 260-yard.
Nice.
Pass on the touchdown.
I was impressed that we were able to get this done in under an hour. Do you have any other tidbits, anything else you want to throw in before you fix your wash machine?
No, I'm going to go fix my fucking washing machine.
All right. I want to thank you personally for throwing that rhyme out. That was impressive. You've got some big shoes to fill. next week. So you better hope that another trade deadline comes out of nowhere.
Hopefully.
Nice. Well, we apologize for not getting to the listener questions, but we will hit them up
Really,
on
I don't apologize
Twitter.
about.
DJ doesn't apologize. I'll apologize for the
I
podcast.
apologize for nothing.
Check us out on Twitter @LoadedBox. Check us out on iTunes. Make sure you're subscribing, rating, and reviewing, or you're not our friend. I think that's all I got. Why don't you send us out?
Bye.